Hi, my name's Steve Lang. I'm the Assistant Director for Career Services at Central Washington University's Westside Centers in Des Moines and Pierce County. This presentation is designed to provide important information, rules, and guidelines for education students to help them develop strong resumes to apply for their teaching positions. The first thing that's really important for anybody, whether you're a teaching major or any major, one of the first things you need to be able to do is to know yourself, your strengths, your interests, skills, values, what motivates you, and make a list of your achievements. And then create a record of your education and experience. And then for education students, know what kind of teaching position you want. And then study the position descriptions and requirements so that you know what those are for the specific position you are applying to. And then research schools and districts that are of interest to you. When you begin writing, do not use a resume template. I can't emphasize that enough. Resume templates have a lot of hardwired formatting in them. When you just type information into a resume template and then try and revise it or update it at a later date, you run into all kinds of formatting issues and problems. I can't tell you how many students I've worked with that have been tearing their hair out trying to reformat and update resumes on templates. Rather than that, just use a Microsoft Word document and create your resume content on Microsoft Word, what I would call a resume information worksheet. In other words, just write all your content in Word without any formatting to begin with. And then as you begin writing, do not use a narrative style or personal pronouns, I, me, or my. And then organize your information from the most relevant to the least relevant. So when you begin articulating your experience, it's important to use an actual position description so that you can identify the key skills and requirements you will need to demonstrate in your resume. So, and then use power or action words, which are verbs, when describing your experience. So in other words, words like facilitated, incorporated, designed. And then it's also important to use past and present tense appropriately. This is something that we often see students not doing properly, is using past and present tense. And then do not mix date formats. For example, if you're going to use numbers for dates, use that throughout your resume. If you're going to use spelling out the months, spell out the months. If you're going to use abbreviations, abbreviate throughout the resume and make sure that you're consistent in your abbreviations. And then one other thing is give yourself lots of time. I can't tell you how much time it actually takes to write and draft a really good resume, and each time you go back and revise and update it, it can take an equally amount of time. So here's what I talked about, is viewing the position description. So here I just pulled some actual professional qualifications off a position description. And I have actually couple 2 pages here that I'll show you, but just an example of the types of things that are listed. So you can see knowledge of current curriculum and instructional practices, bilingual proficiency in English and Spanish, I'll point some out here, previous experience in dual language, current knowledge of child development theory. So you go through these and read through these. And so I'll go to the next page again, ability to work with computers to develop students' technical literacy, ability to work with students in multi-age groups, ongoing professional development activities. So you go through these things, and then what you want to do is, before you start drafting, is you want to highlight the specific qualifications, skills and requirements of this specific job, so that you can know the specific things you need to incorporate and demonstrate within your resume. So as you can see, that I've highlighted a lot here, but this is just to kind of provide you an example of how you should go about doing it. So one of the other things that comes up is, what about an objective? An objective is optional, and sometimes it's not necessary to have an objective. But there are a couple things to consider. Is if you are applying for a specific position within a specific school, then you want to make your objective directly to that position. For example, a position as an elementary Spanish dual language teacher at Lake Hills Elementary. That would be a specific position, and that's just fine. But if you don't want to limit yourself to a particular school or grade, then you need to be less specific. And then a couple examples here is, one would be like an elementary teaching position at X elementary school. Or even less specific would be a 3rd or 5th grade teaching position within a specific school district. So An objective, like I say, is optional. Sometimes you don't need to use one, but if you have a specific position you're applying for, make sure that you write an objective that's specific to that position. And then if you don't want to limit yourself, make it less specific. So when you list your education information, what I've provided here is a sample of the formatting, how you want to format it. And so one of the specific things we see, a lot of students will list the school first. They don't really emphasize their degree, but this is how you want to list your education in your resume. You want to list your degree first. So it'll be Bachelor of Arts in Elementary Education. That will be in bold. And then over on the right-hand margin, aligned to the right-hand margin, we always recommend putting your dates over in the right-hand margin. So this could be a graduation date, or it could be a expected graduation date, or if you're earlier in school, we're working with younger students, you could put lists of dates of enrollment, which might be when you started, and then to present. If you have a minor, or you could list that here as well. And then again, you'll notice that the minor, the actual TESL, minor is in bold, and minor, the word minor is in plain text. And then list the university or institution in plain text. You can list your grade point average if you want. It's not necessary. And then if you have something like study abroad, you might list that here as well, along with the dates that you were involved in that study abroad experience. So this is an example of how you list your education specific information. A lot of students, it's really helpful if you have not gained particular experience in your student teaching, but you have learned certain things in your coursework, you can list relevant coursework. That would be a subsection within your education section, So relevant coursework would be bold, and then you would, rather than listing all of your courses stacked on top of one another in multiple columns, it's best to just list them in a single line, separated by a comma. So it would be teaching English as a second language, comma, creative curriculum and integration, etc. So that would be the way you want to format it. If you have leadership activities, again, you can put your leadership activities as a subsection within your education section, and list your titles, the base and the positions that you had, and the organizations, and then the dates that you've been involved. And again, usually you're going to list your dates in reverse chronological order, so from most recent backwards. So then another thing, a really important thing for educators is your skills, is your certifications and endorsements. And one way to list them would be, you could list your skills, certifications, and endorsements as a separate section, or you can list it as a subsection within your education. In this example, this individual has listed their computer skills in one, and then they've listed language skills as another column, or another line, and then certifications and endorsements as a third line. And so if you have multiple endorsements and certifications, you could actually separate certifications and endorsements out into its own section, but this is just one example of how you would list those. So when you get to your experience section, it's really important to format that consistently as well. And here is, so you would, your section heading would be experience, or in this example, if you're going into you're applying or want to relate your teaching experience, it would be teaching experience would be your section heading. And then again, similar to your education, you want to list your title, job title first, and then the school or organization, and then their location, and then over on the right-hand margin, list the date, the month and the date that you work there. And then here's an example of where you're using those action words, designed and implemented weekly vocabulary lesson plans, assisted in managing a class up to 26 first grade students, and then graded up to 100 papers weekly. So what you're doing is using those action words and also quantifying whenever possible. This adds a lot of credibility and a lot of really good information that hiring managers and personnel directors really like to see. The second one here, again, you start out with whatever your teaching title was, lead summer teacher, location, your school, location, and the date over on the right-hand margin. And again, using some of those action words: created and implemented, guided up to 16 first graders, communicated effectively with professional parents and guardians. So this is just an example of how you would want to format your teaching experience section. Then how to list related experiences. This would be same format, but you have related experience would be another section in your resume. So you would have your education section, then you might have your certifications and endorsements, and then you would have your teaching experience, and then related experience might be the fourth section. Again, the same formatting here. You use coach, and then who the organization was, the location, dates over on the right-hand margin. And again, you use those action words: designed and implemented, coached and supervised, 14 middle school students. So action words and quantifying whenever possible. So then how to list additional experience. A lot of students don't work while they're going to school because they need the money. But it's not related at all to the degrees or the occupational areas they want to go into. But it's still important that it shows that you worked while you're going to school, and so you might list that as additional experience. In this instance, a student was working as a barista in Starbucks in Ellensburg, Washington. Again, the date is in plain text over on the right-hand side. And then this is one instance where instead of using past tense, they're using present tense because this is a job where the student was actually still employed. So supervised, one employee, 15 hours a week, organized, promotional. So instead of the supervised, as this one down here says, supervised, monitored. So make sure that you use the proper tense. So there's just a couple examples how to do the additional experience section. So here is a sample education resume that I brought up to share with you. And this is putting all the pieces together. So you'll notice that up at the top, the student has their heading, their name. What I forgot to mention is your address. You can put your address, but that's optional. Your phone number, your email, and then if you have a LinkedIn account, that's great to put it up there as well. Here, the objective, again, I'm noted in brackets that it's optional, but here this student was very specific, a 4th grade teaching position with the Valley View Elementary School. And then the education section, they list their degree in bold, the date of graduation over on the right-hand margin. Here they list their minors, social studies and Spanish, list the school and their GPA. Here is where they've listed honors and activities. And they've listed a number of those, and then certifications and endorsements. This is an instance where you actually could reverse these. You could put your certifications and endorsements above your honors and activities, because certifications and endorsements are probably more relevant and more important to the actual meeting the qualifications of the job. But if you have some really great honors and activities to participate in, either way would be fine. And then here, your teaching experience. Student teaching, the location, the dates of employment, and then multi-bullets describing what you've done in those roles. And then field experience, again, location, and the dates over here on the right. So this is an example, and then related experience, and then additional experience. So this is putting all elements together. Now, one of the other things I wanted to mention is over here on the left. To find a copy of this resume or one very similar to it, you can go to our Career Services website under resume tips, and I'll show you how to get there in a moment. And that'll give you a bunch of information about resumes, as well as as you scroll down, you'll be able to take a look at this resume, and I'll show you how we do that in a moment. So to recap, the basics to building an effective resume are: do not use templates or tables, and write your resume content in Word or a text-only document. And then do not use that narrative style or personal pronouns, I, me, and my. Use those power words, power verbs, and quantify whenever possible. Relate what you did, how you did it, the skills and tools you used, and use the appropriate tense. And then give yourself lots of time. Write, retreat, review, revise multiple times. And then format your resume using Microsoft Word formatting tools. Some of you may be familiar with that. I find a lot of students are not extremely familiar with formatting tools, but that's a really good reason to seek assistance from your career specialist. Myself or Jesse Allen is the other education career specialist. We're pretty adept at using these word formatting tools, and the reason we encourage you to use them is that it provides a lot more flexibility in your resume, enables you to update it and reformat with minor inconvenience. And so in conclusion, what I like to do is, here is our email, career@cwu.edu. Here's our website, which I will take you to in a moment and show you how to find some additional information. And then to book an appointment with your campus career counselor, and for education students, that would be Jesse Allen over in the Ellensburg campus, and myself in the West Side centers. I'll just click on this link here and take us to the link. This is our homepage for Career Services. And right down here, you'll notice this book appointments online. You click on a book appointments online. and you'll scroll down. Here's Jesse Allen. Instead of scrolling down to the bottom where my picture is, I'll just show you how you could book an appointment. You would do the same thing on my picture. Just book an appointment with Jesse. It takes you to a bookings section where you can choose what you want to book an appointment for, with mock interview, professional documents review, which would be either for resumes and cover letters, other appointment or career counseling. You choose the service that you want, and then you can go to a calendar and find out when we are available, what times we have available, select that time, and then add in your name and email, and then you can book that appointment with us, and it will show up on our calendars, and we will know to meet when you were going to meet with us via Zoom. So another thing that I wanted to show you here is you can also go to Career Resources. And Career Resources, this is where you can find information on resumes, cover letters, interviewing, the Wildcat Career Network. We have a really great career guide. It's a booklet in PDF, which has tons of information, which I encourage you to take a look at. But for resumes, which this presentation is about, you look at resume tips and you scroll down through here. There's lots of really good information. And this is where you can get to some tips and samples. There's action statements, how to write action statements, and descriptions. And then here's this action word list. So this is a whole page of hundreds of words that you can use. So you're not using the same word like assisted over and over and over. So this is something that you should be aware of. So I really encourage you to take advantage of the resources that we have available, and to reach out to Jesse or myself, because we're here to help you. And we really look forward to doing that and helping you be successful in your future teaching careers.